The Detroit Pistons are now 2-0 on their Western road trip after defeating the Sacramento Kings, but despite the win, they do need to be careful with how they're playing in these fourth quarters lately.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Khahil. I've been covering the Detroit Pistons for the last 4 years, been a credential media member over the last 3 years, and I appreciate all of you guys who have made Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day, even on a Christmas Eve like this. So Merry Christmas Eve to all of you guys. We will have an episode for Christmas Day is the expectation. So the grind never stops. But I hope you guys all have a great Christmas and a great holiday. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. I also want to thank you guys for making the Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports podcast network in America. Later on, I want to talk about certain players needing to continue and just maintain this level of aggressiveness that we're seeing from them. Later on, we'll also talk about another comment we got from JB Bickerstaff on Jaden Ivey, and Jaden Ivey playing well in this game against the Sacramento Kings. But let's start with the game itself. The Pistons were on a back end of a back-to-back against the Sacramento Kings, and they get the win, 136-127. Before we get into anything the Pistons did, the Kings are very bad. Matt George, Locked On Kings host, I feel bad for him. Kings fans, I feel bad for you guys. Legitimately, I passed out. You guys may be wondering why I didn't get an episode out last night or right after the game. That's because I passed out at the middle of the third quarter. I had to rewatch it this morning. These late night games, man, I'd be tired as ever. But I was talking with some friends at the beginning of the game, first half, and I was like, man, what's the Kings' plan here? Like, what are the Kings even playing for? Like, I look at the team. They have a bunch of older guys. They're not winning at all. Nobody wants their older guys. They don't really have any young guys either that they really like. They don't have any great, like, it's what's their plan here? Well, what's their future? What's their present? Like, well, it's like they just assemble a bunch of people to go play pickup basketball every night. Like, that's it. Like, feel bad for Kings fans. But with that being said, the Pistons end up getting this win by 9 points. I want to speak about in a minute how they played in the fourth quarters. But they got some really good contributions from a lot of players. Jalen Duren had a great game. Cade Cunningham, I thought, a fine game. We'll talk about him in just a minute. Tobias Harris had a very good game. Assar had a great game. Isaiah Stewart had a great game. So they had some really big production from all of their key young guys, really, and their veteran and Tobias Harris. Ron Holland did not play in this game, for anyone who did not know. He did not play. The latest news we got is that it was knee soreness, and that he got some imaging done on his knee, and we will find out the next set of news or whatever it is, hopefully soon. But he was out due to some knee soreness. We'll find out if it's anything serious or not, hopefully soon. So the Pistons went with a 9-man rotation in this game. This led to Assar Thompson playing 36 minutes, Cade playing 39 minutes, Jalen Duren playing 32.5 minutes. I thought that Tobias was tremendous in this game. He got 6 threes up in this game and made 3 of them, which was fun to see. But he also, in the fourth quarter of this game, when it started to get a little close, he hit some big-time back-to-back clutch buckets for the Pistons out of the post, out of that mid-post area, which we know he loves to get to, which they very much needed. Isaiah Stewart off the bench, again, he's another player we'll talk about more later, but in that, I believe that second quarter, he came in, was it the second quarter or the first quarter? The first quarter. Comes in and immediately just scores 7 points in 5 minutes of action, just punishing the Kings inside. Got an and one instantly. Does nothing too flashy, nothing crazy, just punishing them inside. He continued that the rest of the game. Came into the game very active. And like I said, was making the Kings pay inside. Duren, 23 and 13. He was dominant in this game. Again, he dominated Donovan Clingan in the last game against the Portland Trailblazers. That was a really tough matchup. But then in this game, the Kings don't have anybody that could really check him. They were playing Maxime Renaud, their rookie, and he just dominated him. So it was fun to see that. And then Assar had a really good game. We'll talk more about those guys later. But what I wanted to talk about real quickly is that the Pistons are great, obviously. But you guys know how we do it on the podcast, on this podcast. We make sure we analyze everything and talk about things they can improve on still, and talk about trends, and talk about things they don't want to continue to happen or things they do want to continue to happen. For the entirety of the season, the Pistons have been one of the best fourth quarter teams in the NBA. And for the entirety of the season, they've been one of the best clutch teams in the NBA. I'll read you their numbers. On the season, their numbers in the clutch. They're 5th in net rating, 5th in offensive rating, 6th in defensive rating. They're 1st in rebounding percentage. They have been one of the, and they have the 3rd best record in clutch minutes this year. They're 15-5. So for the overwhelming majority of the season, they've been a tremendous clutch team. And even the last 2 games, honestly, like against Portland and against the Kings, when it got the clutch time, they lost the leads. But when it got the clutch time, they still pulled it out and ended up extending the lead and winning by a comfortable amount. They won by 8 after losing the lead late in Portland. So that's clutch minutes, and they came through again. So that speaks to them just being a very good clutch team. And even against the Kings. Kings made it close, and the Pistons extended the lead. So they've been one of the best clutch teams in the NBA all year. However, the overall fourth quarter, they're starting to see a little bit of slippage as of late. I want to read their numbers overall on the season. They're 9th in net rating in the fourth quarter, 6th in offensive rating, and 16th in defensive rating in the fourth quarter. So that's their season overall. Over the last 5 games, though, you're starting to see like a big swing, a complete like 180 to both sides, where their defense was not the greatest throughout the fourth quarters throughout the year. Now, over the last 5 games, they have the 2nd best defensive rating in the fourth quarter. However, they went from having the 6th best offensive rating in the fourth quarter throughout the season. Over the last 5 games, they have one of the worst offenses in the fourth quarter. They're 24th in offensive rating and 27th in true shooting. So they're not very efficient, and they're not scoring in the fourth quarter. They're also dead last in assist percentage, and they're trending towards the top 10 in turnover percentage. So it's not great over the last 5 games. What do I attribute that to? So a lot of that obviously will go to the fact that Cade was I attribute some of that to the fact that Cade fouled out in the game against Portland. That's one. 2, I'll attribute some of that to the fact that Cade, in this fourth quarter against the Kings, was turning the ball over a lot. And that's why I said we'll talk about him a little bit later. We just got done on like 2 podcasts ago. I went like 15 minutes about how great Cade's been with the turnovers this year. But that's still going to be something that pops up every now and then. Over the last 2 games, it's something that's popped up. He had 9 turnovers in this game. Again, you guys heard me right. 9 turnovers in this game against the Kings and 5 turnovers against the Trailblazers. Not great. Not something you want to see. This is after, over the previous 7 games before this, he was averaging just 2.3 turnovers a game. So, like I said, he's been doing a much better job this year. He's been really a ton better this year when it comes to taking care of the ball. But the last 2 games, we're starting to see a spike again. So I think that's contributing to it as well. Obviously, that game against Dallas really hurt them. Their 3-point shooting hasn't been the best in the fourth quarter as well. And I feel like they've been taking their foot off the gas against some of these teams that they feel like they're just better than. And that's just a different type of reality the Pistons are operating in that they just weren't able to operate in the last few years. Like, they weren't able to play with their food like this and then still able to win. They were the team trying to take advantage of other teams playing with their food and getting wins. Now the Pistons find themselves in a spot where they're just better than the other team, and they end up getting laxed, especially these last 2 games. They go up by 20, and then they just chill out a little bit and start trolling, and then all of a sudden it's a game, and now they have to fight it out in clutch minutes. So you like the fact, like I said after the Portland game, you do like the fact that they are finding ways to win still, keeping their composure, and able to close these games out even when they start to let go of the rope a little bit. But like JB Bickerstaff has said after these games, he said that he's like to see them hold on to the rope. You don't want to see them let go of the rope. And obviously, I think that's going to come with this experience, the growth, and really, honestly, I don't even know how much of it is really about maturity, because at the beginning of the year, I feel like they did a really good job of this. Like I don't feel like they really blew a ton of games after the Cleveland game, during this win streak and how they've played since then. I don't remember a ton of games when they're just like trolling in the fourth quarter and just say, you know what, here you go, let's bring this team back in the game. It's really just been lately, and I think it's because they're taking their opponents a little too lightly as of late. So I think they just need to get back focused. Not a big deal, I don't think, but it is something to just watch for. It is a trend to just pay attention to. Is it just them taking their opponents lightly, or is it something else? I think it's that. So I'm not going to read too much into it, but again, it's a trend that we like to mention on the podcast. We find good and bad trends that are showing themselves, and I will say that it's something that I think we should just keep our eye on. See how they continue to play in the fourth quarters. Let me know, comment section down below. or over on Twitter at Khahil. How you guys feel about this? But coming up, there's some players that need to stay aggressive, and their aggressiveness is leading to great success for the Detroit Pistons. I think you guys obviously know one of them is going to be Assar Thompson, but there's a few other players as well that I think are really, their aggressiveness is really leading to the Pistons having some great success. We'll talk about it coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports, bowl games, big basketball matchups, and playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while we're all making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is with Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, lock in your lineup, and you're in the game. It's simple, fast, and available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. The new Stacks feature lets you choose the same player up to 3 times in one lineup, like more in a QB's passing yards, touchdowns, and rushing yards. Deposits and withdrawals are quick and easy, which keeps everything flowing. So download the PrizePicks app today and use Locked On NBA, the code Locked On NBA, to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code Locked On NBA to get $50 in lineup after you play your first $5 lineup. That's with PrizePicks. It's good to be right with PrizePicks. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. I want to wish you guys, again, a very Merry Christmas Eve. And if you guys are listening to this on Christmas Day, I hope you guys had a great Christmas Day and hope you guys have some great holidays. Also, again, like I said, thank you for making Locked On Pistons your first listen every single day. If you haven't already, you should go check out our Everydayer Club, where you can get access to ad-free audio feed for Locked On Pistons compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. Also, you get an invite to the Locked On Everydayer Discord server, where there is a Locked On Pistons channel that we all chill and hang out in and talk to each other. If you want to join it, talk to all of us about it, go to lockedonpistons.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more below. You're seeing the aggression of certain players with the Detroit Pistons really lead to some great success for them. And obviously Cade is the main guy. He is the franchise. So him, we talked about a few episodes ago, him taking this big leap has been the biggest reason why, obviously, that they're as good as they are. But we're now, what are the Pistons, 24-6? We're now 30 games into the season. The Pistons have an 8th-ranked offense. They have the 2nd-ranked defense. They have the 6th best net rating. They're one of the very best teams in the league. You could argue they're the 2nd best team in the NBA right now. Definitely in the handful of top-tier teams. Did I say the NFL? I think I might have said the NFL. The NBA right now. And it's not just because of Cade. We'll start with Assar, who obviously is one of my favorite players. And his aggressiveness lately has been absolutely tremendous to see, because it was something that we saw at the beginning of the year, kind of went away after he came back from injury, and it was spotty. It was some games you'd see it, some games you wouldn't. Some games you'd see it, some games you wouldn't. But as of late, the last 3 games, he's been hyper-aggressive. He's averaging 17 points a game, 7.5 rebounds, 2.3 assists, in just 30 minutes of action. He's shooting 65% from free throws. He made 7 out of 10 free throws this past game, which I told you guys, the new free throw routine looks way better, and it's showing the results. So that's great to see, because he's going to draw a ton of free throws. He has a 54 free throw rate because of how aggressive he's been getting downhill, and it's leading to the Pistons dominating teams. I mean, they dominated the Hornets. They dominated the Portland Trailblazers before they ended up coming back and then, keeping them at bay. They dominated the Kings for the majority of the game before, again, at the end of the game, they kind of let them back in and then extended it. He had 19 points against Sacramento, 18 against Portland, 14 against Charlotte. But even if you extend it back to, the first Portland game, over the last 8 games, he's averaging 13 points a game on 56 true shooting, 51% free throw rate. They're winning his minutes by 6.1 points. He's been much better recently when it comes to being aggressive, and they need him. He needs to be aggressive every single game driving to the basket. I've said this over and over, but I'm glad even Greg Kelser mentioned this on the broadcast yesterday, that when Assar is aggressive and getting to the basket, one, he's going to score more, which is great. You need him to score more. He's going to get to the free throw line, all that stuff. But when Assar is aggressive getting to the basket, he's forcing rotations from the big man. And if he does miss at the rim, which you'd like to see him finish even more, I think he's getting better, but You'd like to see him finish a little more at the rim. But even when he doesn't finish, because he's forcing the rotation of a big, he's giving Jalen Duren easy putbacks. Same thing with Cade. When Cade forces the switch on a big, gets to the rim and takes a layup at the rim, he forces that rotation, that contest. You're leaving a wide open putback dunk for one of the best putback players in the league in Jalen Duren. So it just creates good offense when you are aggressive. It goes back to our overall point of the possession battle. The Pistons are going to win the possession battle. They're going to get these offensive rebounds because they've built this team in that type of way. So you need to create these kind of circumstances, these kind of situations where you allow your team to take advantage of what other teams don't have. And the Pistons are going to dominate in the glass. Get looks at the rim, get the ball on the rim, force rotations, and then allow your team's strengths to dominate from there. So not only is Assar scoring more for himself, not only is Assar getting to the free throw line more, all of that's great for him and great for the team. When he's like this, he's opening up easy avenues for Stu, put-back dunks like we saw yesterday. Duren, put-back dunks like we saw yesterday. That's some of the Pistons' best offense. When Duren or Assar or Cade or anybody is just getting to the rim and getting good looks at the rim, whether they're finishing or not, the Pistons are usually getting 2 points nonetheless because they're the best offensive rebounding team in the league, best second chance point team in the league. So that's why you need him to maintain this aggressiveness. And it's been like that for quite a few games now, and we've seen it in spurts, so hopefully it maintains this level of aggression. It started in that Dallas game before he got ejected, really. He was hyper-aggressive in that Dallas game. So hopefully this continues. The other player I want to talk about is Isaiah Stewart, man. Stu has been tremendous this year. I've talked about it a few times, but he has been so good for the Pistons. He had 16 points yesterday, and he's averaging 10.2 points a game this year. That's what Stu's averaging. It's not like he's playing a crazy amount of minutes. He's only averaging 22.7 minutes a game. He's shooting 60% on twos, which I believe is a career high. He's back to shooting threes as well. We obviously know how tremendous he is on defense. But if you guys remember, back in the beginning of his career, and this is something we talked about in the offseason with Stu this past year when we reviewed his season, it was like, man, Stu's having a fantastic, he had a fantastic season last year, was his finishing around the rim. Like, if you remember earlier in Stu's career, he was not a good finisher at the rim. That was one of the concerns that someone like myself had about him. I spoke about it all the time. I was like, okay, one of my concerns with Stu is, okay, you're billing him as this stretch four. I don't believe in him as a stretch four, and I don't know how far ahead he's going to get as a three-point shooter, and he's also a big who has tough hands and can't really finish at the rim. That was the struggles for him. Like, the first 3 years of his career, he had bad hands, and he couldn't really finish at the rim. It was a concern. And each of the last 2 years, he's gotten better and better at the rim. Like, for example, his second year in the NBA, 58% at the rim. Third year in the NBA, 57% at the rim. He was in the 8th and 7th percentile. Then in his fourth season, he was in the 26th percentile. He was a tough finisher. It wasn't good for a big. And that was my biggest concern. Then you look at last year, he jumps to the 49th percentile. He shoots 69% at the rim. And I was like, oh my God, that's his best finishing season of his career. Like, is it here to stay? And then this year, yeah, in fact, it's gotten even better. He's shooting 72% at the rim. Yes, you heard me right. 72%. He's in the 69th percentile at the rim. This is a guy who just 3 years ago was shooting 56% at the rim. He was in the 7th percentile. He's gotten so much better as a finisher at the rim. The touch around the rim is so much better. And he has like this, I'm going to say this player because it's the first player that comes to my mind when you think of funky footwork. It's not like his at all, and he's not this caliber of player at all. That's not what I'm saying. But it makes me think back to Blake Griffin, because Blake Griffin was always known to have like this weird, funky footwork. It wasn't like your traditional, what you taught as when you were younger footwork when he gets to the post or inside. It was very unorthodox, and it made defenses very unsure of when he's going up, where he's releasing his shots from. It's the same thing with Stu. If you watch Stu, his footwork is a bit wonky. It's not, it's not traditional, but he gets off these shots that you can tell defenses just aren't ready for him to get off. He creates room and then releases from like these weird angles that, again, to most players, you probably think they're just throwing something up there, but his touch has gotten so much better, and he's so much comfortable with that it just turns into easy buckets in the paint, especially where he gets switches. Anytime he gets a switch, the Pistons are actively looking for him underneath the rim. Again, that just wasn't something he was doing earlier in his career. This year, he's in the 58th percentile on post-ups, scoring 1.08 points per possession. That wasn't something he could do early in his career. 2 years ago, he was in the 37th percentile. So he's been ultra aggressive, and him being as aggressive as he is, as aggressive as he's been, I should say, is great for the Pistons. And again, the finishing around, the fact that he's able to finish these shots at the rim, the fact he's able to get these offensive rebounds and get him back on the glass and be a good putback guy and be a guy on rolls that he's catching the ball now. You're not really seeing Stu drop the ball ever, really. Like, he has much better hands now, and it looks like he just trusts himself more as a scorer around the basket, and he's a lot more aggressive with it, and it's leading to better Pistons offense. According to Synergy, he's good on cuts this year. He's good on offensive rebounds this year. He's good as a pick and roll man. He's good on post-ups. He's been an excellent guy in transition. All of this is due to the fact that his hands have gotten better, his finishing around the rim has taken an incredible leap, and he's much more aggressive. And I was going to end it off with Jalen Duren, but we know Jalen Duren. I don't need to spend too much time with him. 23 points in this game. The free throw shooting is starting to drop just a little bit. Like to see that go back, but the aggressive, I mean, he was just hitting the Kings big right now with just moves that he probably wasn't ready for. Euro steps, he hit him with a pull-up jumper. He hit him with some shots at just physicality at the rim, dunking on. Like, he was just, his aggressiveness has been there all year. But the overall point, I wrap it up with these three guys. I didn't want to spend too much on Duren. We've spent so much time on Duren every single podcast. You guys get it. But my overall point here is that this is why the Pistons offense is a top 10 offense in the NBA this year. They may not have the best three-point shooting, even though I do think they need to go out and get three-point shooting. I think that would take them to the next level. And just again, the Brooklyn Nets are 11th in net rating the last 10 games. If they want to get a top pick, they're going to have to trade their best player, so maybe you should call about them. But overall, the point is that the Pistons have a top 10 offense right now and are a much better offensive team this year than last year. Not just because, a lot of it is because of Cade's improvements and how good he's been, but it's not just because of that. It's because defenses now have to focus on more than just one player to be aggressive and go at them and get to the basket. They have to worry about that with Jalen Duren. They have to worry about that with Assar Thompson. They now have to treat Stu like an actual threat at the basket, as an actual threat on rolls. Heck, even as an actual threat from beyond the arc. And in transition, there's multiple guys this year that are doing things that they weren't doing last year, or are just better than what they were last year on the offensive end, and are demanding defensive respect in multitude of different ways. Now it's not just Cade sitting at the top of the key and being the only intimidating factor. There's multiple different guys that are putting pressure on the defense, and when you have multiple ball handlers, when you have multiple guys that can put pressure on the defense, it makes it incredibly hard to defend and incredibly hard to stick to your rotations over and over and over again. And I will wrap it up here. Going back years ago when they drafted Assar, I told you guys what their vision was. Troy Weaver came out and said what their vision was and where the NBA was going. It was, you need multiple guys who are ball handlers, athletic, and can get to the basket. If you have those guys, and those guys are all players that are also able to make reads, you will be incredibly difficult to stop in 2025. Now, Troy's no longer here, but the vision is starting to come through a little bit here. Cade getting into the basket. Assar getting into the basket. Jalen Duren getting into the basket. Karis LeVert's getting into the basket as a veteran. Jaden Ivey as he gets healthier. We'll get to the basket. Like, all of this stuff, they have so many guys they can. Ron Holland. I forgot to even say Ron. They have all these guys that are able to get to the basket and put pressure on defense. And that's why their offense is so much better this year. And they need that aggression to stay with Stu, to stay with Assar. It's going to stay with Duren. We've seen it for a long enough stretch. But we need those guys to stay aggressive so you can maintain this level of offensive output. Coming up, though, I want to talk about Jaden Ivey, who played well in this game. And we got more comments from JB Bickerstaff about what exactly is going on with his minutes. We'll talk about it coming up. During basketball season, there's nothing like being in the building, the energy, the crowd, the first big run that gets everyone on their feet. Fans want to be there for those moments, not stuck refreshing screens or guessing what tickets are really going to cost. That's where Game Time comes in. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage back, making it incredibly easy to see and score amazing tickets, fast, simple, and without the guesswork. Price includes fees up front, so the total is clear from the start. Features like the zone deals helps unlock great seats at even better value. Whether it's an NBA game game or another live event, everything is right there in one place. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today and get in on the action with Game Time. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. We have some updated quotes on Jaden Ivey. First, I want to talk about how he played against the Sacramento Kings yesterday. I thought he played fine. I thought he was pretty good. He was 3 of 5 for 8 points in just 14 minutes of action. He had 3 rebounds and 3 assists. He was very active yesterday. Defensively, I thought it was a little, he had 4 fouls. He had a few reckless closeouts, but, it is what it is. Offensively, I thought he was a little better this year, in this game. He did have 2 blocks, though, so he's been active defensively. But offensively, he made 2 threes in this game. He was good. He was a plus 15 in the game, team high in those 14 minutes of action. So he played a good game. And this is now back-to-back games where Ivey is looked good. He looked good against Portland. He had 11 points in limited action. He looked good in this game against the Kings. So it's good to see him stack some fine, good performances back-to-back. However, this only led to him still playing 14 minutes in this game. And he played the least amount of minutes of anyone else on the team. He played less than Karras. He played less than Javonte. That's because they didn't have Ron, so that was the only real guys coming off the bench for real, outside of Stu. But we know Stu plays the most minutes, usually off the bench. So what happened? Well, what's going on? Why is he not again, another game where it seems like he's playing better, but he's not playing as many minutes as some fans would like him to play. JB said this, spoke about it a little bit pregame. I wanted to read these quotes. So the first question asked to him was, and this is from Omari Sankofa, how do you measure Jaden Ivey's physical readiness while on a minutes restriction? He says, quote, a lot of it is how he feels the next day, but that's honestly a performance staff issue or conversation. There's a plan that's in place for him to ramp up where he's more comfortable, where he's confident so he can get back to playing the bulk minutes. Now, you read that first answer, you're like, okay, so they have a plan for him to eventually get back to playing a lot of minutes for the team, and they're just following this plan. Now, before we read this second quote, if you guys have been listening to Locked On Pistons every single day, I've told you guys that idea is, for lack of, I don't want to say what I was going to say, is fishy. I've been saying that's fishy. I've been telling you guys, listen, I talk to people, and I'm not going to, I said the last episode, I'm not going to be gaslighting and believing that, this just because, he can't play more than 13. He can't play more than 15. That's what it is. We're just following a minutes restriction. I told you guys, I've talked to people, now I'm not going to be gaslighting and believing that. I tried pushing and saying that, and people were like, you're just hating on Ivey. You're just trying to find any way to say he shouldn't play. That's not what I was saying. I was literally saying what I have heard and what we're seeing. Actions speak louder than words. So you read that, you listen to that first answer, and you think, okay, yeah, they're just following a plan, and he's going to end up playing more in like a week or so. As he plays more, they'll get him back to 30 minutes. They want him to get back to 30, all that stuff, whatever. Then he's followed up with this. The question is, he hasn't played in the fourth quarter this past week. Is that intentional, or was it just how those games went? This is what JB said. He said, quote, it's how it's worked out also. We're in a great situation with the amount of guys that we have on the floor and the successes that we've been able to have. So trying to balance bringing guys back with keeping what we also had going on, the continuity going, and that's the kind of balance we're trying to have also. So, and that's the end of it, end quote. It's that very clearly shows that JB is trying to politely sidestep this question. And it's what I've been trying to tell everybody, is that they are trying to keep what they had going before. We're trying to find some spots to get Ivey back in. And if Ivey doesn't just play so well that they force their hands to play 30 minutes, JB trusts Caris LeVert a lot. Like in this game, Caris LeVert again played 20 minutes or 19 minutes of action. Now, I'm not saying Caris LeVert is playing well. Like I just said last episode, he's played terrible the last 10 games. But it's clear that JB just trusts Caris more. He played Javonte Green 18 minutes. He likes Javonte Green's defense. He played well. He had 9 points, and they like what he brings defensively. Caris, he trusts Caris to operate with the ball in his hands. Like, I think there is, from a part of the community, there is a a want to not accept or realize what's happening. And I feel like Ivey's going to have to play so well. He's going to have to be so great. He's going to have to be great to force JB's hands here. Because unless everyone else just turns out to be, it just starts playing awful and Ivey just plays great, I think you're going to see him hover around 20 minutes. I think he'll eventually get to maybe 25. Like, I think that's going to happen. I'm not questioning whether he's on a minutes restriction where he can't play 23 more or 23 plus. Like, I understand that. But again, this isn't like he has a 20-minute restriction and he's capping out at 19 every game. He played 21 minutes 5 games ago. Then he played 14. Then he played 13. We've seen him play 9, then 12. Then he played 17. This game he played 14. So this isn't like I've been saying, and there's been people who've said that I'm not being fair or I'm just lying. That's not what's happening. This is not just a minutes restriction thing. This is a coaching decision. This is JB saying, we want to get you some minutes, we want to get you ramped up, but I also really like these guys. That's what JB is saying. He's tiptoeing around it, but his actions on the floor are very clearly painting it out. He is saying, I like Karras. I want to play Karras. I trust him with the ball in his hands. I like Javonte. He plays defense. I need to find minutes for him. I like that's what's happening. So the most interesting storyline that I'm watching, like for the next month, do we ever see Ivey get to 25 plus minutes? Like at any point are we going to see Ivey play 25 plus? Or is he always going to be hovering around this 20-minute mark? Like that's what I'm going to be watching for. And before these last 2 games, I mean, we talked about this in the last podcast, it wasn't like Jaden Ivey was playing through the roof to where he was forcing JB's hands. Now, the last 2 games, he's played much better, so maybe that starts to force JB to try to find more time for him. But like I said, even in these games where he's played well, he still played less than Karras and played less than all these other guys. So it's just interesting to me. It's interesting to me. I don't know how this situation is going to resolve itself. I said before he came back that this was going to be very interesting and tough for JB to handle because I know that they have a formula that they like and that they've won with, and now they also got to try to find a way to change that formula a little bit to get him back in action, but they don't really want to change it too much. It's going to be something interesting to watch. But I think the bigger news is that Ivey has looked better the last 2 games. I think that's the bigger news. So whether he's playing in 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25, whatever it is, seeing him play better is good news for him and for everybody. So whatever minutes Ivey gets, he needs to be fantastic in those minutes. And he needs to be forcing JB's hand to play him a lot more minutes and cut the minutes of Karras LeVert, cut the minutes of Javonte Green, cut the minutes of whatever to get him more minutes. Because right now, yeah, sure, maybe he can't play more than 23 minutes, but he also can play more than 14. He can play more than 13, and JB's choosing to play him just 14, 13. We'll see how it develops. So all I've got for you guys today. Have a great holiday. Have a great Christmas. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. Until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe out there, and peace out, everybody.